Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. The Firebirds major update dev server is currently online, and in this video, I will be showing you each vehicle that is currently live on the dev server. Now bear in mind, there might be some vehicles that will be coming in this major update that are not currently on the dev server. Sometimes they release these a few days after the first day of the dev server, so we'll have to wait and see if that happens, but again, I will be showing you each of them in this video. If I miss any, let me know in the comments below, but I'll do my damn best not to. So that being said, let's go ahead and start on the vehicle I think got the most hype thus far, and that is the F-117A Nighthawk. That's right. As you can see, we have War Thunder's first stealth aircraft, and beyond the first few vehicles, I'll try to speed it up here, but I just want to show you guys because this is just such an important step in War Thunder. This lacks countermeasures entirely. It has terrible stats. As you can see, 34 meter per second rate of climb. It's got an 8.7 BR in air battles and 10.0 in ground battles, and the whole reason being is because even though it lacks guns, even though it lacks radar, missiles, anything like that, you can carry yourself two GBU-10 Paveway 2 guided bombs, which is crazy, or conventional bombs. Just an absolutely devastating thing because you're probably not going to be tracked by a lot of SPAA in ground battles, and that gives you the affordability, the time, to be able to go after your enemies, drop laser-guided bombs on them, with more or less, well, hopefully, with impunity. But again, this is 8.7 in air battles because, quite frankly, its performance stats suck, and it has no way to defend itself or go after other aircraft. Now that said, let's just go ahead and speed this up a little bit. As you can see, this is a squadron vehicle. Next up, we have the F-15E Strike Eagle. And again, beyond these first few, I'll just kind of speed up. So, as you can see, it has AIM 120s. You can carry up to 8 of them. You can carry AIM 7Ms, AIM 9Ls, AIM 9Ms, a whole bunch of countermeasures, and more importantly, as you can see, we have tons, literally tons of anti-ground weapons. You have guide bombs right here. These are GPS guided bombs, and you can carry, what is that, up to 20 of them, 285 pounds each. It's just a whole lot. You can carry AGM-65Ds, Gs, you can carry GBU-15Vs, which are IR guided bombs, 2,000 pounds. It's just a whole lot of damage. Next, let's go to U.S. ground, and first vehicle that you see is the T-77E1, which is a brand new SPAA for the U.S. ground. Will be currently 3.7, at least that's what it shows on the dev server rather. Bear in mind, again, anything is up for change. It weighs 18.4 tons, which is the same as what you see here on the M24, but it is quite a more complicated vehicle, so who knows, maybe that weight will increase, but it has 650 cals. Next up, we have the Skink. Now, the Skink is already in game on the Great Britain ground tech tree, so this is not really a new vehicle, but something that the US really can benefit from. But insofar as ground vehicles are concerned, unfortunately, that is about it. The US is just getting a few new SPAA, well, kind of new SPAA. There are no helicopters in this. There are also no Blue Water Fleet vehicles, unfortunately, and also no coastal fleet vehicles for the US. Now let's go to Germany, and they have a few interesting ground vehicles. So you have the Lux A2, which is pretty cool. It's only got the 20mm RH202, but you can equip DM63, and it has Gen 1 thermals, which at 7.3 BR is very powerful. I could see that going up in BR in the future. Next up, and finally, we have the OSA AKM, which is a gigantic, like, look at this thing, absolutely gigantic SPAA firing 126 kilogram missiles, surface-to-air missiles. This thing is going to be absolutely gnarly, but it's also, I could see it being very difficult to use. Beyond that, the Germans do not have any helicopters coming to War Thunder. Nor, again, do I believe that they're getting any aircraft. As you can see, there are no new aircraft. Oddly enough, typically Germany is one of the more favored countries in-game, but they are not getting any aircraft, nor are they going to be getting any sort of blue water fleet vehicles as well. And it looks like they are absent of coastal fleet additions, too. Now, going to the USSR, you know that they are well loved by Gaijin, and just going down here, they do get, I think, 2 vehicles. So you get the OSA AKM, as you can see here, is the same thing that the German tech tree is going to be getting, and they're also getting the Object 140. Now, a lot of people have been saying, deservedly so, that this is kind of like a very similar vehicle to what the Russians already have at and around this BR, but the thing is, it has a much more powerful cannon, at least when it comes to muzzle velocity and thus projectile force. So it has the D54 APDS with 380 millimeters of armor pen, or the D54 with 290. That's an APCBC with over 100 grams of explosive filler equivalent within it. Now, it doesn't have any laser rangefinder. It doesn't have composite armor, if I'm not mistaken, nor does it have any sort of thermals or anything like that. But it is still a very, very powerful weapon. Whereas if you look at this with the 3BM8, which is a very similar round, 360 or 336 millimeters of armor pen, or with the BR412D, 239. So again, this thing, the Object 140, it might not be as capable as, let's say, the T55 AM1. However, this thing is going to have a hell of a cannon. This might be a really, really good sniper vehicle. Next, the Russians are getting the Mi-8 AMT SHVN, crazy designation there, and pretty much it's just going to be something that can carry Ataka missiles, which is going to be very good, but I feel like that's going to be the majority. Or you're also going to have people that can use this as an anti-aircraft helicopter, which would be very interesting, but I could see some people doing that. Then, of course, we have Russian Air, the Su-34, and again, I just want to show you guys like the loadout on some of these things because it is bonkers, and I feel like this is one of the more necessary things because when it comes to modern vehicles, the loadout really makes the vehicle. And so you have Grom-1 missiles. Basically, these are GPS-guided missiles, max speed of 2 Mach, 120 kilometer launch range, 400-second missile guidance time, and 264 kilogram explosive filler equivalent. These things are going to be bonkers, and they can each be aimed and targeted independently of each other. It's just going to be an absolute, like, I don't know how they're going to do this, but it seems like it's incredibly powerful. Now, bear in mind, GPS or GNSS guided weapons, once you aim them, they don't move with their targets, at least as of current, so that is a weakness, but if you aim 4 of them, you're probably going to get at least 1 hit, especially with the fact that these things move at Mach 2, and they have such a long range. Those things are going to be SPAA killers. Now, when it comes to Blue Water Fleet, they are not getting anything, but they are getting a PR-253L coastal vehicle. Wow, something that so many people have been wanting. I mean, to be fair, like, I know somebody put a lot of their hard work and effort into making this vehicle, so it's still pretty cool. You know, anyone who enjoys coastal, I know I do when it comes to Russia, low BR coastal, they have crazy vehicles. That could actually help. Next, we have the Ram 2. It is coming to the Great Britain ground tech tree. Of course, this is a Canadian vehicle, and it will be a premium, pretty much the same as it is in the American ground forces tech tree. And then, of course, the Great Britons, or the British, I guess you could say, are going to be getting the Scimitar, which is basically a tracked version of the Fox. It has the same cannon, so it's going to be more or less like an up-armored or somewhat up-armored-ish but slower version of the Fox. So, I mean, it's cool, but, you know, it's not going to necessarily be all too much. It's just going to more or less, at least from what I would imagine, play like a slower version of the Fox. But the Great Britain, they are getting the Super Hind, which is awesome. Basically, this is going to be a Hind that, I mean, looks like something out of Star Wars, and is also going to carry a bunch of South African weapons, including the ZT-3A2 Ingve air-to-ground missiles, with up to 1,000 millimeters of armor pen and only a 5-kilometer launch range, but you're looking at a 10.3 BR vehicle, not too bad. Now for aircraft, Great Britain is going to be getting the Tornado GR4, which will have access to the Lightning II targeting pod. I think it's supposed to have access to the Lightning III targeting pod, and it should also have access to the Brimstone air-to-ground missiles. So I'm not entirely sure how accurate this is as of yet, but as you can see with pretty much all of these vehicles, it will have a ton of dumb ordnance that you can carry. Unfortunately, we'll only be able to carry 2 AIM-9Ls or Ms, but as you can see, you can carry up to 1,200 chaff countermeasures, which is just crazy, but unfortunately very few flares, at least insofar as these countermeasure pods are concerned, although you can double up here and get 240 countermeasures, which is basically 120 each in each of these packages, flares and chaff. Otherwise, of course, you also have TV-guided bombs, laser-guided bombs, laser plus IOG, nothing all too crazy. Now let's just keep on moving on here. We have Great Britain. When it comes to the Blue Water, they are getting the Repulsed, which is awesome in my opinion. This is going to be a very powerful vehicle, a battle cruiser, and it is a member of the Renown class. I actually play a decent amount of Blue Water, at least when it comes to Germany, and a little bit of Japan near the higher echelons. So I'm pretty excited about seeing that on the opposing teams, at least until I get it myself. But there will be no Coastal Fleet additions for Great Britain. Next, we have Japan, and unfortunately, I thought that they had a vehicle for ground, but I guess they don't have any ground vehicles coming in this next major update, nor do they have helicopters. And it looks like they're going to not have any new air vehicles either. That really, really sucks. At least just based on what I'm seeing here. Again, correct me if I'm wrong ever in the comments below, but I just don't see any air vehicles. And again, they could add an air vehicle at some point during the dev stream or a dev server while this is still live over the next few days. And there's a pretty decent chance that they're going to add a new vehicle for the Japanese or any of the tech trees that don't show any vehicles by the time that the server goes live, the major update goes live. So let's go to China. But as of right now, it looks like Japan is getting nothing in any of their tech trees, which kind of really sucks. Now, China will be getting a new vehicle. They're getting the PLZ-05, which is going to be a TD, essentially just an artillery vehicle with a 155mm cannon and a laser rangefinder. Plus, it will have access to semi-armor piercing shells with up to 166mm of armor pen and 5.1 kilograms of explosive filler equivalent, which is just bonkers. Plus, of course, you have a variable time fuse shell, which is also going to be very, very useful for some situations like destroying enemies who are sitting behind cover. So this actually might be a pretty gnarly vehicle, will be one of the more versatile artillery TDs in game. And then, of course, when it comes to Chinese aviation, and also, well, the helicopters, they are not getting anything, but when it comes to Chinese aviation, unlike last update, it looks like they are getting nothing. Now, actually, going back a little bit to Germany here, I want to point something out here that I think I missed earlier. Germany will be getting an addition in bombs when it comes to the Ju-288C. You now have access to the SB 2500 kilogram bomb with 2,736 kilograms of explosive filler equivalent. Look how big those things are. You now have access to them, whereas previously the largest bombs that you had access to were the 1,800 kilogram bombs, which were already insane in their own right. This is going to be completely bonkers, and this is actually going to make this vehicle a lot more usable, at least when it comes to naval. I use this thing in naval all the time, and this is going to blow enemy vehicles out of the water. If you get a direct hit, this can go through 271mm of armor before blowing up with 2,736 kilograms of explosive filler force. Now that said, let's go over to Italy, and Italy will also be getting the ULSA AKM, although of course flying under the Romanian flag, which is kind of interesting in my opinion. It's not, Hungarian, it's just going to be a Romanian flagged vehicle, but hey, you know what, that's still pretty damn cool in my opinion. Otherwise, they are not getting any helicopters, nor does it look like they're getting any sort of aircraft in this major update, nor blue water vehicles as well, and they are getting the MS-444 motor torpedo boat, which looks like it's a post-World War... Actually, this might not be a post-World War II vehicle, but it will be a 2.7 BR, so I mean, that's kind of cool. We'll have a relatively decent armament, but that's pretty much it. Now, one thing actually I do want to mention here, my frames and all this, I feel like this update, at least as of the dev server right now, there are some major frame rate issues here. My computer is working 3 times as hard as it normally does, and it is running really hot right now, while also getting basically half the frames that I normally do when it comes to just sitting on the menu. So it's a little bit bonkers. We're going to have to see how that is. And it's not the ray tracing, because ray tracing doesn't quite work yet, at least on the dev server. I checked in the settings. Next up, we have, of course, France, the ground tech tree. They are getting, like almost every vehicle, like almost every nation out there, they are getting Leopard 2s. And we have the 2A4NL, the 2A5NL, and the 2A6NL, basically meaning Nederland or Netherlands, which is pretty cool. I mean, I don't really think that this is some crazy important thing. They do get the DM53, which is kind of cool when it comes to both the A5 and the A6, but that's pretty much it. There's nothing really all too crazy when it comes to these vehicles. you've already seen what they can do. Next up, when it comes to helicopters for France, they get nothing. And from what I could tell, they are also not getting any sort of aviation, unfortunately, which really does kind of suck, to be honest with you. I wish that France and Italy need more on the aviation front. It's just, they're kind of forgotten tech trees at this point. But the French are getting the Dunkirk, which is a really neat battleship, rather. This thing looks awesome. It's got quad mount 330 millimeter cannons, which is just so damn cool. It just looks awesome, in my opinion. So I'm actually really excited for this. I might get a test drive for that when I get the chance. But otherwise, they get no other blue water fleet aside from the Dunkirk, and also no coastal. Going to Sweden now. Now, Sweden is getting an interesting addition here. We have the SWBMP-2MD, which will be flying under the Finnish flag, and will have access to, if I'm not mistaken, Gen 3 thermals at this low of a BR, but it lacks an ATGM like a lot of BMPs have, but in its stead, you will get access to the pretty decent 30mm APDS that you can fire with up to 82 millimeters of armor pen. So this is going to be a very capable scouting vehicle, and I think that more or less makes up for the fact that you lack, hopefully makes up for the fact that you lack an ATGM. Now, they're not going to be getting any new helicopters again, at least per the dev server, and Sweden, at least as of what's on the dev server, is not going to be getting anything for aviation. Now, Israel will be getting a ground vehicle, the Sabra Mark 1, which is really cool in my opinion. This is pretty much, if I'm not mistaken, what's that, like an M60, but with built-up composites, which is really cool. And it will have access to the M322 APF SDS, which has nearly 600 millimeters of armor pen all the way down at 9.7 BR. But of course, the mobility on this vehicle will be a big problem. So we're going to have to wait and see if that means anything, because this thing's going to be able to hit hard, but it might not be able to take hits, and it definitely won't be able to move all too quickly. Then when it comes to helicopters, as far as I could tell, again, they're not getting anything, but they are getting basically the F-15 Strike Eagle, the F-15I Ram, which is going to be a 12.7 BR, or rather 13.7 in air battles, 12.7 in ground battles, will have access to more or less a very similar or same suite of weapons as what you see on the American F-15E Strike Eagle. Now, that being said, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. I will be doing a gameplay video of the F-117. Probably going to release this tomorrow, so I guess the Saturday of the dev server live weekend. So if you guys want, definitely consider liking this video, subscribing to my channel. That would mean a whole lot, especially if you want to see some of these vehicles in action. I will be posting some gameplays with them, again, one with the Nighthawk. But that said, thanks for watching. I'll see you all on the other side. Take care, everyone.